Welcome to your deep dive.
Mm.
Today we're exploring a topic that, well, touches so many lives and can feel incredibly complex. Sustainable weight loss.
hmm
It's an area where, information overload is just the norm, often leaving you wondering where to even begin.
Yeah, definitely. And for this deep dive, we've really focused on one key source. It's an essential guide that kind of lays out the fundamentals, uses a series of core questions and answers.
Right.
It's designed to cover the whole landscape, really, from understanding the why behind it all to navigating those real-world challenges like plateaus, and importantly, the role your mindset plays.
Right. So our mission is pretty simple.
Yeah.
We're going to try and cut through that noise. We'll unpack this guide together, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and practical, actionable insights.
Exactly.
The goal is really to give you a clearer, more informed path forward, to help you understand what truly drives long-term success. I'm genuinely excited to explore something with such a direct impact on, everyday well-being.
It really is a subject with immense practical value, and this guide, I think, does a great job of grounding us in the essentials.
All right, let's start right at the beginning then. This guide grounds us by first asking, what exactly is weight loss fundamentally, and why should we care about it beyond, say, just how we look?
Well, at its core, weight loss just means reducing your total body mass. Now, the primary focus is usually fat loss, right?
Right.
But it's important to remember it can involve water and sometimes, ideally not, lean muscle tissue too.
Mm-hmm.
But the real significance, and this guide really emphasizes this, it's firmly rooted in health. Carrying excess weight is linked to some significant health risks.
Like what kind of risks?
We're talking increased chances of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, that's a huge one, certain cancers, joint problems, sleep apnea, and it even impacts mental health, things like depression and anxiety.
Wow, okay. And here's a point that really stood out to me. The guide highlights the power of modest weight loss.
Yeah, that's huge.
Forget needing to shed like a massive amount to see a difference. It reveals this surprising truth. Losing just 5 to 10% of your current weight.
Which might only be 10 or 15 pounds for many people.
Exactly. That alone unlocks massive health wins. Things like lower blood pressure, better cholesterol levels, significantly cutting your diabetes risk. That feels like a game changer, focusing on achievable steps that deliver real, measurable impact.
That statistic, the 5–10% one, it's incredibly motivating, isn't it?
Totally.
And the guide adds that beyond those, internal health markers, there are tangible physical and psychological benefits too.
Buckets.
Enhanced mobility, less strain on your joints, improved sleep quality, more energy. And while health is the priority, that boost to self-esteem and body image that often comes with achieving a healthier weight, that's a valuable psychological outcome too.
So understanding why it matters so much.
Yeah.
That leads us, naturally, I guess, to the how.
Hmm.
What does this guide point to as the safest, most effective approach to actually making progress?
Okay, so the guide is very clear here. It's not about one single magic bullet. It's a combination.
Okay.
It's dietary changes working together with physical activity. And crucially, it's underpinned by behavior modification.
Right, the habits.
Exactly. And the absolute cornerstone of this whole process, the fundamental principle you just can't ignore, is maintaining a calorie deficit.
Simple idea, right.
Simply put, yeah. You need to consistently consume fewer calories than your body actually uses.
Right. Creating that deficit is the core mechanism. And the guide, it walks through the practical steps of implementing that combination approach you mentioned.
It does. Step one is calorie control, basically. You need to understand your own needs first, and then aim to reduce your intake by about 500 to 1,000 calories per day.
And that leads to?
That typically supports a sustainable loss rate of, say, 1 to 2 pounds per week, which is generally seen as safe and manageable.
Okay. Does it suggest tools?
Yeah, it mentions using things like food tracking apps, MyFitnessPal is an example, or even better, consulting a registered dietitian to really help figure that out accurately for you.
And it's not just about the numbers, the calories, right? It's the quality of the food, too.
Oh, absolutely crucial. The guide strongly emphasizes focusing on healthy, nutrient-dense whole foods.
Like what specifically?
Think plenty of vegetables and fruits, high in fiber, low in calories. Lean proteins are key: chicken, fish, tofu. Legumes, they help with satiety, feeling full, and protecting muscle.
Okay.
Whole grains like brown rice, oats, quinoa for sustained energy. And healthy fats, from things like avocados, olive oil, nuts. They're important, but you need to watch the portions because they are calorie dense.
Makes sense. Does it talk about practical stuff like meal planning? That feels essential for staying consistent.
It does mention it, yeah. Preparing meals ahead helps you avoid those impulse choices, stick to your plan.
Right.
It also recommends regular meal times, trying not to skip meals because that can just lead to being overly hungry later.
Yeah, I get that.
Then physical activity is the next piece. It recommends incorporating both cardiovascular exercise, things like brisk walking, cycling, swimming, and resistance training.
Weights, body weight stuff.
Exactly. Using weights or just your own body weight.
And it really stresses that the underlying behavior change is what makes it stick, right? Developing sustainable routines rather than chasing, I don't know, quick fixes or those crazy crash diets.
Precisely. That's the long game. And tracking your progress is listed as another key step.
How so?
Well, whether it's using a journal or an app to monitor your food, your exercise, your results, seeing that progress, even if it's slow and steady, it's vital for staying motivated.
Yeah, got to see the wins.
Definitely. And the guide kind of wraps up this section with a really powerful reminder. Consistency matters more than intensity. A moderate, steady approach is what builds habits and leads to sustainable weight loss without, jeopardizing your health.
That makes so much sense. Okay, moving from the fundamentals. Let's talk about something everyone wonders about. With all the diets out there, keto, paleo, whatever,
Yeah.
is there one single best diet for weight loss, according to this guide?
Well, the guide's answer here is actually quite liberating, I think.
Okay.
It says, no, there is no single universal best diet that works for absolutely everyone.
Okay, that takes some pressure off maybe.
Right. The most effective diet is the one that fits your individual lifestyle, your personal preferences, your culture, even your specific health needs. It has to be something you can actually live with long term.
Okay, so the best is personal. Got it. But what do successful weight loss diets generally do have in common then, if there are common threads?
Good question. Despite their differences, the guide does identify some common traits among the effective ones.
Like?
They all successfully reduce calorie intake in some way that's fundamental. They encourage eating nutrient-rich whole foods. And critically, they are designed to be sustainable and hopefully enjoyable enough for you to actually stick with them.
That makes sense. The guide does mention some specific, popular, evidence-based dietary approaches, doesn't it?
It gives a brief rundown of a few, based on their core principles. So there's the Mediterranean diet.
Lots of veg, fruit, fish.
Exactly. Veg, fruit, whole grains, legumes, fish, and those healthy fats like olive oil. Then there are low-carb diets like keto or Atkins.
Cutting carbs way down.
Right, reducing carbs significantly, focusing more on protein and fats. The guide notes these can sometimes produce rapid initial results, but maybe not sustainable for everyone in the long run.
Okay, what else?
Plant-based diets are mentioned that can be really effective when the focus is on whole, unprocessed plant foods.
Right, not just vegan junk food.
Precisely. Then intermittent fasting, often using methods like the 16.8 window.
Where you only eat during certain hours.
Yeah. It doesn't dictate what you eat as much as when. And the guide says many find this easier than strict calorie counting day in, day out. And lastly, the Day-Esh diet. Originally for blood pressure, but it's rich in fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy, and low in saturated fats and sugar, so it works for weight management too.
So few different valid approaches.
Definitely. But it always circles back to this core point. The best diet is truly the one you can adhere to consistently over time while still meeting your nutritional needs and ideally genuinely enjoying your meals. Which really raises an important question for you, the listener. Which of these approaches, or maybe a combination, feels like it could realistically resonate with you and your life?
That's a powerful way to frame it, focusing on the individual fit. Okay, so diet is clearly the main driver for creating that calorie deficit we talked about. How important is exercise in this picture then? Where does it fit?
The guide positions exercise as playing a significant supporting role. So yes, diet contributes more directly to creating that calorie deficit needed for actually losing weight.
Okay.
But physical activity helps in a number of really crucial ways that support the overall effort and, frankly, your health.
What are those specific ways it helps, according to the guide? Can you break those down?
Sure. Well, first, it contributes to calorie burning, obviously. It increases your total energy expenditure for the day.
Right.
But maybe more importantly, it's crucial for preserving lean muscle mass, especially if you include strength training.
Why is preserving muscle so important?
Because muscle is metabolically active. Maintaining muscle helps keep your metabolism humming along healthily, even as you lose weight. Prevents that metabolic slowdown as much.
Gotcha. Okay. What else?
Cardio exercise is particularly effective for reducing body fat, And then are the mental health benefits, which are huge.
Ah, yes.
Exercise is a great stress reducer, helps with anxiety, depression, which, as we'll discuss more later, can directly impact eating habits. It can help prevent emotional eating.
That's a big connection for many people.
Absolutely. And finally, it improves sleep quality, which again is another vital piece of the puzzle for weight loss.
So it really supports the whole process. What sort of exercise does the guide recommend aiming for, like practically?
It suggests a target of around 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate aerobic activity.
Like brisk walking.
Yeah, brisk walking, dancing, cycling, swimming, things that get your heart rate up,
Yeah.
but you can still hold a conversation, roughly.
Okay. And strength training.
Alongside that, yeah. 2 to 3 strength training sessions per week are recommended, using weights, resistance bands, or just body weight exercises to build and maintain that muscle.
And I appreciate that it adds that reminder that even simple daily activities count, right?
Totally. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking a little further away, doing household chores.
It all adds up.
Every bit of movement adds up. It's about weaving more activity into the fabric of your day, not just relying on dedicated gym time, you know?
Yeah, making it part of life. Okay, here's where we dive into factors that I think are often overlooked but can have a huge impact. This guide specifically highlights sleep and stress.
Mm-hmm. Big ones.
What role do they play in the weight loss journey? Because they don't seem directly related to calories or exercise at first glance.
Well, the guide presents them as absolutely critical foundational elements. They can either really support your efforts or honestly completely derail them.
Okay, let's start with sleep. How does that work?
So poor sleep, and the guide defines this generally as getting less than maybe 6 hours a night consistently significantly messes with your hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin.
The ones that control appetite.
Exactly. It throws your body's signals out of whack, increases ghrelin, the hunger hormone, decreases leptin, the satiety hormone, so you feel hungrier, less satisfied.
Oh.
And it specifically increases cravings for high-calorie, sugary, sort of comfort foods.
Double whammy.
Right. And on top of that, just being sleep deprived reduces your willpower and increases fatigue. It just makes it plain harder to make healthy choices and stick to your exercise plans.
So what's the target?
The guide recommends aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night.
Okay. And stress.
Mm.
That feels very connected for many people to both sleep and eating.
It absolutely is. Chronic stress keeps your cortisol levels elevated. Cortisol is that stress hormone, and one of its effects is signaling your body to store fat, particularly around your abdomen.
Oh, interesting. Belly fat.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, for so many people, stress is a direct trigger for emotional eating, or even binging, using food as a coping mechanism.
So how do you manage these? What does the guide suggest?
It offers practical tips. For stress, incorporating stress reduction techniques into your routine. Things like deep breathing exercises, yoga, meditation, journaling, or just engaging in hobbies you enjoy, anything that helps you unwind.
Okay. And for sleep?
Developing a consistent sleep routine is key. Going to bed and waking up around the same time, even on weekends, and limiting screen time, phones, tablets, TVs before bed, as the blue light can interfere with melatonin production.
Right. That's a hard one these days.
It is, but if we connect this back to the bigger picture, managing sleep and stress, they aren't just optional extras for weight loss. The guide positions them as fundamental pillars. Ignoring them makes everything else so much harder.
That perspective is incredibly important. Okay, let's talk about a common frustration. Weight loss plateaus. You know, you're doing everything right, or you think you are, and then progress just stops. Why do they happen?
Yeah, the dreaded plateau. The guide explains they are a normal, even expected part of the journey. It's basically your body adapting.
Adapting how?
A few ways. One is metabolic adaptation. As you lose weight, your body actually requires fewer calories to maintain itself because it's smaller. Your resting metabolic rate decreases slightly.
Ah, okay.
Also, you might find you're expending less energy during physical activity simply because you're carrying less weight around. It takes less effort.
Makes sense.
And sometimes, honestly, people might unknowingly become a bit less strict with their tracking or underestimate their calorie intake as they get further into the process. Little things creep back in.
So it's usually a combination of factors.
Yeah.
How does the guide suggest you push through one of these plateaus? What can you do?
It offers several strategies to kind of shake things up. First, reassess your calorie needs. Your maintenance calories are lower now, so your deficit might need adjusting.
Recalculate based on the new weight.
Exactly. Second, you could increase the intensity or duration of your exercise, or maybe add new forms of activity to challenge your body differently.
Mix it up a bit.
Yeah. It even mentions potentially experimenting with routine changes like intermittent fasting or maybe carb cycling, not necessarily forever, but as a temporary strategy to create a metabolic shift that might break the plateau.
Interesting tactical moves.
And crucially, it strongly advises going back to tracking everything, both food and activity, with renewed honesty and accuracy for a period. See if something has slipped.
Back to basics.
And the big takeaway here is patience. Breaking a plateau can take time, so don't get discouraged.
That's good advice. What about people dealing with specific medical conditions? Can they effectively use weight? Or does something like PCOS or hypothyroidism make it too difficult?
The guide is clear that yes, absolutely, individuals with medical conditions can lose weight, but it definitely acknowledges they often face unique challenges.
How so?
Well, conditions like PCOS, hypothyroidism, insulin resistance, diabetes, they can directly impact metabolism, appetite regulation, energy levels. It just makes creating and sustaining that calorie deficit harder sometimes.
So what's the advice for them?
The number one tip, emphasized strongly, is always consult a doctor or a specialist first. Medical supervision is crucial to develop a plan that's safe and personalized for their specific condition.
Right. Tailor it.
Exactly. Specialized diets might be helpful. Maybe low GI, anti-inflammatory, or diets with adjusted macronutrient ratios, depending on the condition and doctor's advice.
Okay.
It also suggests checking if any current medications might be contributing to weight gain and discussing potential alternatives with the doctor.
Good.
And again, patience is vital. Progress might be slower, but consistency still wins out. What's really fascinating here is just how critical that personalized medical guidance becomes when underlying conditions are part of the picture. You can't just follow generic advice.
That's super important. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about the siren song of quick fixes. Supplements, fat burners, are they necessary? Or even helpful? What does this source say?
Supplements. The guide delivers a very strong and pretty clear message here.
Which is?
Generally, no, they are not necessary. And many can actually be ineffective or even dangerous. It's quite critical of the weight loss supplement industry overall.
Why is that?
It notes the often exaggerated claims, frequently backed by weak or sometimes non-existent scientific evidence, lots of marketing hype.
So, are any useful at all?
Well, it does mention a few common ingredients, like green tea extract, which might offer a slight metabolism boost, but probably not significant for weight loss on its own. Fiber supplements can help with satiety, feeling full, and digestion. Protein powders can be useful if you genuinely struggle to get enough protein from your food. But it stresses the benefits for weight loss itself are typically quite limited.
And the dangers.
Yeah, it issues a strong warning against products promising rapid, dramatic results, especially those containing stimulants, unregulated herbs, or banned substances. It highlights serious potential risks to heart, liver, and kidney health.
Wow, okay. So not worth the risk, usually.
That's the message. The bottom line from the guide on supplements is really simple. Focus on the fundamentals: real food, regular exercise, good hydration, quality sleep.
That's stuff we've been talking about.
Exactly. And if you even consider adding a supplement for any reason, always talk to your doctor or a healthcare provider first. Don't self-prescribe based on ads.
That's incredibly practical and important advice. Okay, so let's say someone reaches their weight loss goal. Fantastic. What about maintenance? The guide notes, and I think many people feel this, that keeping the weight off is often even harder than losing it in the first place.
It does note that, and it's a common experience. This is where the guide really emphasizes that maintenance isn't about going back to your old ways at all.
It's about
making those healthy habits you built during the weight loss phase your new permanent lifestyle.
Okay. So what are the key strategies for successful maintenance according to the guide?
It lists several. Staying active is huge. Continue combining both cardio and strength training regularly. It helps maintain metabolism and body composition.
Be moving.
Mindful eating, continue focusing on nutrient-rich foods, paying attention to appropriate portion sizes. Not necessarily tracking forever, but being aware.
Okay.
Weighing yourself, perhaps weekly, is suggested as a tool. Not to obsess, but to catch small upward trends early before they become significant weight regain. Allows for quick adjustments.
Makes sense. So like a little check-in.
Exactly. Planning for flexibility is also key. Allow for occasional treats or indulgences without guilt. Life happens. Knowing you'll get right back to your routine afterwards is important. Avoid that all or nothing trap.
Right. Perfection isn't the goal.
And routine check-ins, maybe using tracking tools occasionally, or just being consciously mindful of habits can help reinforce things.
So the core message for maintenance is,
It's pretty straightforward. The secret isn't magical. It's simply not reverting to the habits that led to the weight gain in the first place. You just continue living the healthy lifestyle you've built.
that sounds simple, but requires ongoing effort.
It does. It's a continuous process.
And finally, the guide circles back to what it presents as maybe the ultimate factor for long-term sustainable success: mindset.
Yes, the psychological piece.
How does it frame the importance of your thinking, your attitude?
The guide basically argues that the right mindset is the bedrock. It's what sustains your results over the long haul.
Right.
It suggests that failure in weight loss isn't usually about a lack of effort or willpower necessarily. It often stems more from having unrealistic expectations or falling into that black and white all or nothing thinking.
Like, I ate one cookie, the whole day is ruined.
Exactly that kind of thinking. Feeling like one slip up means you failed and might as well give up.
So what are the components of a successful mindset, according to this?
It details a few key things. Patience is one, really recognizing that lasting change takes time, and it's almost never a straight line down. There will be bumps.
Mm-hmm.
Self-compassion, this is huge. Being kind to yourself after slip-ups, learning from them, instead of beating yourself up and giving up.
Treat yourself like you'd treat a friend.
Precisely. Consistency over perfection. Understanding that making better choices most of the time is far more effective and sustainable than trying to be absolutely perfect every single moment.
The 80-20 idea, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. Education, continuously learning about nutrition, exercise, how your own body responds. Knowledge is power. And support surrounding yourself with encouraging people, whether friends, family, or communities, who understand the journey and cheer you on.
That support piece feels really key.
It is, and the guide's conclusion on mindset is quite profound, I think. It says weight loss isn't just about changing your physical body.
It's more than that.
It's fundamentally about transforming your lifestyle, reshaping your habits day by day, and cultivating a healthier self-belief, a belief that you can do it. When your mindset shifts, everything else becomes much more possible. It follows from that.
Wow, okay. Taking all those pieces together, the why, the core approach, diet, exercise, sleep, stress, plateaus, medical stuff, supplements, maintenance, and finally mindset, it really does paint a comprehensive picture, doesn't it? All drawn from this essential guide.
It really does. And as the guide emphasizes near the end, these are fundamentals that apply to anyone, truly. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey, just starting out, maybe restarting after falling off track or hitting one of those frustrating plateaus.
These principles offer a map.
Exactly. They provide a solid foundation.
It leaves us with a powerful final thought to ponder, pulled directly from the source material we explored today. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent, informed, and kind to yourself.
That idea of consistency and, crucially, self-compassion, it really shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from punishment or restriction towards empowerment and sustainable change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into sustainable weight loss. We really hope unpacking these key insights gives you a clearer, more informed, and perhaps more hopeful path forward on your own journey.